All right, welcome back everybody to Whiskey 411. I am the Baron, and today we're talking about Redbreast 12, a nice classic Irish whiskey with a pretty, even though not as long as others, a nice history to it. Here's the stats, so you can go ahead and check those out. But let's go ahead and just kind of talk about the history of it real briefly. So Redbreast 12 came into existence around 1909. It was bottled by a company called Ghibli's, who sourced it from Jameson, and it was produced by them up until around the 1980s when Jameson, specifically Irish Distillers Limited, bought them out. And it has continued to be produced at Middleton even up until today. Now, as I said, it is a Irish single pot still whiskey, so it's a certain percent of malted and unmalted barley distilled together to make a very traditional Irish spirit. And this is, in fact, one of the top-selling, if not the top-selling, Irish single pot stills in the world. So the first thing you notice is that while it is lighter in color, it is not overly light in color, which probably indicates some of the age to it. It's got a certain amount of legs, as we like to call it, where you get the clinging to the glass, which usually indicates pot still. It's a nice reference point if you're studying. So the nose isn't quite what I would call dense, but it's definitely not a delicate nose. It is nice somewhere in the middle for me. It's definitely fruity. It's probably the sherry influence, partly. But there is that malt and just a hint of maybe vanilla and... So I really do enjoy the nose on this. It's balanced without being too delicate. Nothing's overpowering. I mean, the apple and the fruit come through a little bit stronger, but still what I would call well balanced. Okay, so on the palate, it hits a little thin at first, and it doesn't really gain density. But I will say that it develops a creamy character as you're drinking it, which is really pleasant to me. It just kind of, and then it stays with you. The finish, it doesn't linger. It's like a good guest. It knows just what time to leave. Now, very much what you get on the nose, you get on the palate as well, just amplified, I would say. So I get this apple, I get that vanilla, I get that shortbread pie crust kind of vibe, a little, maybe a hint of the sherry influence, but not overpowering, nothing that I would just nail this as sherry. Very, very enjoyable. So yes, for me, I'm going to say this is a nice, well-balanced dram. They've really nailed it. If you're looking for a good, classic, traditional single Irish pot still whiskey that has been sherry finished, then this might be a good way to go for you. So I like to do this a certain way, and that is I have 3 questions I like to ask myself about a whiskey, and that is, do I like it? And in this case, the answer is absolutely yes. I really do enjoy this whiskey. Would I recommend it to a friend? Sure, I would absolutely recommend this to a friend, especially someone who wants to get a good feel of what Irish whiskey can taste like, even at low proof. And would I buy it again? Sure, I would absolutely keep this on my shelf. I mean, I always have a bottle of this on my shelf, and I would honestly recommend any number of people to do the same. If you're doing a blind tasting, or if you're having friends over, or if you're just wanting to sit down and have a nice, refreshing Irish whiskey, it's a very good way to go. The only downside is that it is in the higher market for Irish whiskey prices, so it runs usually around $70 or so a bottle, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, depending on where you're at. So that may be a detractor from drinking it regularly, but it shouldn't detract from you putting it on your shelf if you can. So let's go ahead and go through my rating breakdown of how I find the notes. Now remember, my ratings are not whether it's good or bad. These are just objective ratings, or as objective as I can be, of 1 through 5 of noticeable characteristics to me. Your notes will vary, and that's okay, but this is how you can help develop your palate. So as always, thanks again for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this review as much as I did. Please feel free to drop me a comment below. Tell me what I got right. Tell me what I got wrong. If you'd like, click subscribe, and join us for all of our future videos. In the meantime, between now and then, here's to good friends, good times, and good whiskey. Cheers.